kind of want to briefly talk about, and I touched on this earlier, but I kind of want to get maybe a little bit more in depth about it. Black Widow, The Eternals, and Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings. So we've known that these movies have been movies in the works for quite a while. The thing that I want to talk about is during this presentation, Kevin Feige said that they will be keeping their theatrical release dates in movie theaters. Again, providing movie theaters are still around and still open in 6 months or whenever they're due to come out. But to me, this says that Disney has faith in the system. Disney believes in people. Disney believes in the strength of their films, specifically the Marvel films. This is exciting to me, especially coming off of the heels of the whole HBO Max thing. And Jackson, I understand that you don't get, the UK doesn't have HBO Max right now because of contractual things with Sky, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But with HBO Max dropping their 17 movies, their entire 2021 slate on HBO Max, or rather Warner Brothers dropping their 2021 slate onto HBO Max, the same day that they're also scheduled to come out in theaters, that could not have been more of a slap in the face to movie theaters. That could not have been more of a slap in the face to film directors and producers and the cast and the crew. Huge levels of disrespect. Not just that they're doing it, but even more so that they didn't even give anyone the courtesy or the heads up to say, hey, this is something that's happening. This is something that we're doing. Okay, bye. They didn't even give them a heads up. So with Disney staying committed to their theatrical release and respecting the theatrical window meaning that there's a time period in between a film is released in theaters before it becomes available either on streaming or VOD or DVD or Blu-ray. Home video. Disney's respecting this. They're staying committed to it. I think that this could be a huge leap forward for the movie theater and the theater going experience. Jackson, where do you stand on this? Do you see this? Do you have a different take on this? Is this meaningful to you, or are we kind of making a mountain out of a molehill right now? What do you think?
It's difficult to say at the moment. It's one of those things where, this year it's been hard to plan for anything because you don't know if those plans are still going to be going ahead a few days from when you made those plans. And when you're talking about releasing a huge big blockbuster in cinemas, I mean, it's very difficult to plan around
Yeah.
that. My personal, I mean, before the pandemic, I was sort of sick of the cinema going experience personally. I thought, I'd rather just watch this at home. I don't want to cram into a room full of people I don't know who behave badly all the way through the film. And then since then, during the pandemic, I do kind of miss going to the cinema to see new releases. Not only that, I mean, people talk about the experience and the big blockbuster experience. I think one of the things I miss is the smaller, more independent cinemas and showing the more obscure kind of
Yeah.
things. Like, the Cameo Cinema in Edinburgh, I really hope that survives this pandemic. I do travel up to Edinburgh quite frequently still for work, even with the pandemic going on. So I passed there a couple of weeks ago, and they've even got the old fashioned style boards outside where you slide the letters on to show to let people
Yeah.
show. And all they have are these letters outside at the moment that say, "In case we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night."
Aw.
From
Truman
I
Show.
saw it and I thought, oh, sad. I hope they survive the pandemic because I used to love going there. It was a really sort of retro, old-fashioned style cinema, and it was the kind of things they showed as well. I remember going to see, I think it was the Coen Brothers film Serious Man,
Oh,
and the
such a
audience
good
that went
movie.
there, yeah, and if you watch that in a British multiplex anyway, everyone just kind of sits there not responding. But I went to see it in this place, and it was full of people who were clearly enjoying the film, and it improved the experience. But also, there's a film called A Town Called Panic, which not a lot of people really know. I would advise going and seeking it out because it's absolutely bonkers. It's I guess it's a kids' film. It's animation, kind of stop motion, but it's really terrible animation.
Sure.
Like uh, little toys wiggling around. It's subtitled because it's Belgian, and I don't know what was going through the heads of the people who wrote it. All I'm going to say is it's absolute madness.
But to your point,
You'll watch it.
there's a certain level of um, class that comes with seeing a film in cinemas. There's a certain experience, and yeah, I think we have kind of fallen away from that a little bit before the pandemic. That's what I'm referring to. There's seeing these movies on the big screen gives you a very, very different experience, right? And I often tell a story about how some friends of mine from Estonia came to visit. They came to stay with me for a few weeks. This was a few years ago when Spider-Man Homecoming was coming out in theaters, right? And they stayed with me and they were like, hey, we want to see New York City. It's our first time. We want to do everything there is to do in New York. And I said, you guys, if you are fans of the MCU, of Marvel movies, and they're like, oh, yeah, we definitely are. I said, you have to see Spider-Man in the big screen, like on the big screen, in like not a New York cinema, but like an American movie theater. Because the AMC theater in Times Square is unlike any other theater in the world, and you're not going to get that kind of experience back in Estonia. So they were like, yeah, we're not coming to America to go see a movie that we could see back home. And I said, it's gonna, I promise you, it's gonna be a very different experience. And it was. They walked out of the movie saying like, wow, that was incredible. We had like the lay flat seats, the cushiony lay flat seats. It was a 4K screen. The sound was perfect. You're not going to get that kind of experience anywhere else. And that is one of the things that excites me so much about Disney saying that they are going to stay committed to Black Widow and the Eternals and Shang-Chi coming out in theaters. Now that may change. Jackson, let me ask you, what do you think the chances are of that changing? I mean, this is something that Kevin Feige and Disney have said that, yes, they are coming out in theaters. They didn't say that they're not coming out on Disney+. They didn't say that they're not going to do that. But for now, it looks very much like this is the case. What are the chances that they might go back on this and say, you know what, we may need to release these on Disney Plus at the same time?
Yeah. Um, I should probably finish that story before actually, because it sounded like I was deviating on a tangent. I watched that weird film in a cinema full of people, and they were all getting the jokes and laughing at it, and it improved my experience of the whole
As it
thing.
should.
Just weird, obscure thing, and it's nicer to know that there are other people out there that watch the same weird stuff I do. But getting back to this topic, yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to come out on Disney Plus eventually anyway. But if they release it at the same time as the cinema, I really don't know actually. Some people can't really get to the cinema because like parents with kids and stuff. I know parents with young kids who never go to the cinema because they just can't get the time to go out. So I guess it's a positive thing for
Yeah, it's
them.
my
But
brother and sister-in-law.
as long
That's
as
their situation.
yeah, as long as the cinemas can survive. I mean, that's the thing. We want them to survive. So it's I don't know if it's a good business decision or not. I personally would probably rather watch it at home myself, but there are people that will still go and see it. Hopefully, it's going to allow the cinemas to survive, though.
And I am
One of the
definitely one of those people.
one of the things is that these filmmakers they get quite defensive about the cinemas and say you can't watch it streaming or at home. You can't watch it on your phone. I think one of the things I can defend about watching a new release on your phone is that you're not going to be on Twitter and Facebook all the way through it because you're using that phone to watch the film. Whereas you go to the cinema and there are people watching it who are on the phone and they'll be ignoring the film. So if you're watching the film on your phone, then you're not going to be on your phone during the
That's a
film.
fair point. That's a fair point. But the question for you guys is, what do you think of Black Widow, of this announcement that Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and the Eternals will be keeping their film release dates? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know those thoughts. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what Scrooge McDuck would want you to do. DuckTales, woo!